Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the NVision Junior Racer75, featuring 1103 8000 kV motors on 40mm quad blade gem fan props. The all-in-one board has an F4 processor and a 13 amp ESC. Camera is the Caddx EOS 2. Not much information about the VTX, it just says small stick VTX. It's pushing 56 grams. I flew it on this Cotter 533S battery and also the G&B 520 milliamp 3S battery. With the Cotter battery I get 98.5 grams. With the G&B it's near 98.25 grams. The frame has a soft touch plastic and it is quite stiff. Bottom carbon plate might be 1.25 millimeters. It does come with an extra set of props. Looks like some screws for your canopy, another battery strap, some zip ties, and that prop remover. Okay, it's a gloomy, cloudy day, and it's going to be kind of a gloomy, cloudy narration here as well. This quad is just really inefficient. Maybe it's something wrong with mine. You know, I've only got the one to test, but the flight time, it's going to be low. I tested various batteries, and I went up to, like I showed you in the quick specs, the 530 milliamp, which is probably still a 520 or 525 Cotter battery. And my flight times at best came in at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And that just seems like it's really inefficient. You saw the battery sag. I didn't go through all the different settings of making sure that I could set the power just at the right spot. But you'll see at the end of this flight, we get about 214, and the battery per cell comes in at right around, it's like 3.61 or 3.62. So at the end of this flight, you could tack on maybe another 10, at most 15 seconds of flight. And your battery is going to come in right at that 3.5 volts per cell. But otherwise, it flies nice. There's nothing wrong with the flight. It's just that it's got short flight time. They didn't set up the VTX tables. It only has the power setting in there. So this is at 200 milliwatt. And I think if that's the case, if it's actually running 200 milliwatt, it's not very good. So there's VTX tables work to be done. It does seem like the tune that's on it is fine. And the frame would be very durable, and they added the carbon fiber to be durable. But again, your flight time, this is a fairly modest flight. You know, I'm doing lots of proximity flying that, you know, isn't very hard on the battery, or at least shouldn't be very hard on the battery. And, you know, if I were to be actually doing circuits around the yard, we probably would only get about 1 minute and 15 on this flight time. So I think flight time is going to be a problem with this particular quad, just because it's got an inefficient powertrain, and it's also pretty heavy. You know, I think the last one we did with the Moto Whoop didn't come in all that much heavier, and it was running 4S and it had a Vista unit in it. So something to think about there as well. Of course, that one probably isn't, the Moto Whoop probably isn't as durable as this one, because the hoops did have a tendency to break. There's the end of the flight. Yeah, 3.6, it'll bump up to 3.61 or 3.62. We got 214, like I said. So I did not fly it in the house. After flying it outside and seeing that flight time, I just didn't think it was worth our effort. It comes only as a bind and fly, or as a plug and fly, excuse me, to where you have to add your own receiver. You can see here where I've got my excess wire, so I do have a little bit of excess weight, but in the scope of the flight weight of almost 100 grams, these wires aren't going to make a hoot of difference. On the website, it notes a flight time of 5 to 7 minutes with a 300 milliamp 3S. That just can't be accurate unless that is a hover with some sort of updraft or something. I don't know how they can get that flight time, because in forward flight, every flight that I took about a dozen flights on probably about 4 different brands of batteries and probably 3 different combinations, because I actually did charge this to run a 300 milliamp 3S battery, and the flight time was like 40 seconds. So I don't know where they're getting that flight time number at. It's just, in my experience, I can't replicate it or even get close to it. You saw my example on a relatively new battery. Now, whether these are high-performing batteries or not, I think in my past tests, I found them to be at least on par with a new G&B battery. So I want to keep this video very short today. I just don't see any market for this. There are just better options unless you really like the color. I do like the fact that they use this soft touch, and I think there might be a wire inside this frame. You know, that really flat wire that you can get sometimes, or in like those slap bands that you slap on your wrist and they wrap around. I'm wondering if there isn't a wire inside of this. I'm kind of tempted to cut into it to find out, because it is remarkably stiff. but it could just be the materials itself. Of course, the carbon fiber bottom plate does help with the stiffness and rigidity as well. The canopy seems to be very robust. That's the one thing I can say about this, is that you could probably crash it repeatedly and it won't be a problem, because I just don't think this frame will really break. It might, I guess, if you get it real cold. If this is actually plastic and you're out flying in some, really low temperatures, then you might get a snappage or something. But the combination of the stiffness creates, I think, some of our weight, and then we have motors that aren't very efficient, decreases our flight time. The construction's very clean. I don't have a problem with that. The VTX antenna is seated very nicely. I don't think that's going to go anywhere, and it's got a nice, cool color scheme to it. And as I mentioned previously, the kind of soft touch they have to these materials, it's nice in that regard. It's just when you get it in the air, you have limited camera angle. I was flying with the maximum camera angle that you have. They did think about camera protection as well, so they worked that out. It just really comes down to it's inefficient and it's too heavy for the lack of efficiency in the powertrain. I really don't have too much more to say about it. I don't think I mentioned in the quick roll, it does come with a battery pad, which is rubberized, so your battery shouldn't slide around. You should be able to secure that down just nicely. Some finer details to draw your attention to: it does come with motor plugs, so you can easily swap out motors should you need to, if you were to happen to have one of these. There is a map of the all-in-one board on the Banggood website, which I'll link this product down in the video description if by chance you wanted to see some specs about this board, some additional details, the wire mapping layout, things of that nature. I think they made something that's well constructed, but unfortunately it just doesn't fly very long. So if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in that section down below. I appreciate your time. Sorry to be such a downer. Thanks for watching.